Exodus chapter 21, the Judgements of God, the laws concerning slaves. Now, one thing before we start. Today, when we think of slavery, we think of the slave traders going to Africa and stealing men and women from their homeland and selling them to America and the world. This was strictly forbidden in the laws of God. Let's jump real quick to verse 16 of this chapter. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he, that's the man-stealer, shall surely be put to death. And critics of God's word will use passages and verses like the following to criticize and judge God as an unjust tyrant who not only justifies slavery but endorses it. But we should point out to these critics that back in these days, there were no social safety nets to take care of the poor, and that this form of servitude acted as a viable alternative to starvation. If a man was poor and could not provide for himself, he could sell himself into the service of another and perhaps learn a trade that he can carry throughout his life. Another reason for servitude would be if a man robbed you, his penalty would be to pay you back plus interest. And if he couldn't afford to pay you back, he would have to work off the debt. This was a benefit to both parties. The victim, because he had his property restored with enough interest to cover any lost revenue that he might have incurred, and enough to house and feed the thief for the duration of his servitude. The thief, on the other hand, can benefit by possibly learning some viable skill to take care of himself in the future. So with that being said, Exodus 21, verse 1. Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy an Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. And again, reiterating the importance of the Sabbath. So we have the 7th-day Sabbath, 7 weeks of 7 days before Pentecost. Every 7 years we have the sabbatical year, and 7 cycles of 7 years before the Jubilee. And of course, all this is a foreshadowing leading up to the true Sabbath. 7,000 years from Adam to the true Sabbath, when we believers will take our rest in Jesus Christ during the millennium. Verse 3. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him, because the marriage vows must be fulfilled. If his master have given him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. So there is probably no marriage vow, or at the very least, the vow would have different terms. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him unto the judges, that's the Elohim, and these would be the judges appointed by Moses at the suggestion of Jethro his father-in-law, and he shall also bring them to the door or onto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl. So a blood covenant between the masters and the servant with the judges as witnesses. And he shall serve him forever, until his death or until the year of Jubilee, whichever comes first. And if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servant do. So there are only 2 reasons that a daughter can be sold into servitude. If she was underage for marriage, she can be sold for domestic chores, and the family would receive a weekly income. Or if she was at or near the age of marriage, she was sold with the understanding that it was to be a betrothal of marriage. Verse 8. If she please not her master, who hath betrothed her to himself, then he shall let her be redeemed by her family. To sell her unto a strange nation he shall have no power, seeing he hath dealt deceitfully with her. This strange nation simply means another tribe of Israel. So if a manservant wasn't working out, his family can redeem him, and if they couldn't afford the redemption price, the male servant can be resold to another master, but only to one of the tribes of Israel. This was not the case for a female servant. A woman cannot be resold, period. She was to be returned to her family. No Hebrew man or woman can be sold to any pagan nation. We are told to remain holy and separated. Pagan nations do not recognize God nor the laws of God that we are now reading about, including the seventh-day Sabbath, the seventh-year Sabbath, or the Jubilee. And remember, it was during the Jubilee the servants were set free and their land was restored to them and their families. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 25, verse 10. And ye shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man unto his possession, that's land, and ye shall return every man unto his family. Let's go back to Exodus, verse 9. And if he hath betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters, not as a second-class citizen, not as a servant, but as family. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall not be diminished. She takes a back seat to no one. And if he do not these things unto her, then shall she go free without money, so her family doesn't have to pay the price of redemption. He that smiteth a man so that he die shall be surely put to death. And if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hand, so if a man dies accidentally by your hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee, and this is called the city of refuge. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 41. Then Moses severed 3 cities on this side Jordan toward the sun rising, and that would be on the east side of the Jordan, that the slayer might flee thither, which should kill his neighbor unawares, and hated him not in times past, that the fleeing unto one of these cities he might live. Now these cities were later expanded to 6 cities, these 3 on the east side of the Jordan, and 3 on the west side of the Jordan. Let's go to Joshua chapter 20, verse 1. The Lord also spake unto Joshua, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, Appoint out for you cities of refuge, whereof I spoke unto you by the hand of Moses, that the slayer that killeth any person unawares and unwittingly may flee thither, and they shall be your refuge from the avenger of blood. And skip to verse 7. And they appointed Kadesh in Galilee in Mount Naphtali, and Shechem in Mount Ephraim, and Kirjath Arba, which is in Hebron, in the mountain of Judah. So these were the cities on the west side of the Jordan. And on the other side Jordan, by Jericho eastward, they assigned Bezar in the wilderness upon the plain out of the tribe of Reuben, and Ramoth in Gilead out of the tribe of Gad, and Golan in Bashan out of the tribe of Manasseh. These were the cities appointed for all the children of Israel, and for the stranger that sojourneth among them, that whosoever killeth any person unawares might flee thither, and not die by the hand of the avenger of blood, until he stood before the congregation. Returning to Exodus, verse 14. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, thou shalt take him from mine altar. So they are to take him outside the camp into the wilderness, that he may die. So the death penalty was always carried out outside the camp, as not to cause the camp to become unclean. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. And he that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. And if men strive together, and one smite another with a stone or with his fist, and he die not, but keepeth his bed, if he rise again and walk abroad on his staff, then shall he that smote him be quit or acquitted. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. What a perfect system. There was no needlessly hurting another person, because now you would be responsible not only for your family, but also for the family of your adversaries. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. That means avenged. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. The loss of productivity would be enough punishment. And again, today we think of slavery as being a brutal institution, But to think a master would beat his servant to a point where he couldn't produce just doesn't make any economic sense, then or ever. That's not to say that it never happened, but why invest all the time and money on food and housing and then render your servants useless? If a man strive and hurt a woman with a child so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, so if she has a premature birth, he shall be surely punished according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. And if any mischief follow, if the baby or the mother shall die, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, and stripe for stripe. And if a man smite the eye of his servant or the eye of his maid that it perish, he shall let him go free for the eye's sake. And if he smite out his manservant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for the tooth's sake. And again, throw in your investment down the drain, because now he has to replace those servants. If an ox gore a man or a woman that they die, then the ox shall be surely stoned, and his flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be quit, or again, acquitted. But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, and it hath been testified to his owner, and he hath not kept him in, that's fenced in, but that he hath killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and the owner also shall be put to death, because he knew the ox was dangerous and did nothing about it. If there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whatsoever is laid upon him. Whether he have gored a son or have gored a daughter, according to this judgment, shall it be done unto him. So the same judgment, whether for a man or a woman, or a son or a daughter. If the ox shall push a manservant or a maidservant, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. And if a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. And if one man's ox hurt another's that he die, then they shall sell the live ox, and divide the money of it, and the dead ox also they shall divide, for the skins and the meat. Or if it be known that the ox hath used to push in time past, and his owner hath not kept him fenced in, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own.